Welcome to the My Curious Colleague podcast with your host, me, Denise. We'll be talking all things consumer relations with a focus on consumer product goods organizations and the brand specialist and analyst roles and responsibilities. So, if you like CPGs like I like CPGs, marketing, insights, and caring deeply for your consumers, well, take a listen. My curious colleagues, this week I'm curious about getting green at home, at work, and in the contact center. And to help me do just that this week is my colleague, Nicole Nutile, who is Manager of Client Service and Customer Experience at Wiley, and who, in addition to that 9-to-5 gig, I should also add is the President-elect of SOCAP. That's the acronym for the Society for Consumer Affairs Professionals that you always hear me talk about on the podcast. So with that, hello, Nicole, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Denise. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I feel very honored and I'm really excited to do this.
Oh my gosh, same here. Same here. You've kind of opened up the idea of, well, we'll get into it, ERGs, employee resource groups, and the opportunities for folks there, and talking about it. Let's start with getting to know you a little bit. How did you get to this point in your career?
Very interesting way. I had kids, so no, I've always worked in operations, and that's been from the contact center, and I transitioned over to, the brand side and working, contributing to a team. And when I joined Wiley, it was a great opportunity for me to connect with people while we were in that, sort of virtual world. And I had my son, and I was thinking that I can do everything, really naturally and holistically and recycle everything. And very quickly it was overwhelming and it just went out the window. So I found the employee resource group. It's the Wiley Green Group. And what I wanted to get out of that was just to understand what everyone in that organization was doing, what was important to them, and learn in small bites how to make a change and really, teach my kids. And it became a passion. I started to volunteer more. I got involved over the last 3 years. And I just recently, only last month, took over as the global co-chair for the Green Group for the Americas side of it, because we have chairs all over. But it's great. It's something that is important for me to pass on to my kids. And even if it's small things, I just want to make that difference.
Yeah. Well, first, I should say congratulations on your path to being named a co-chair of a global group. That's quite an accomplishment. Very proud of you. And I need to sadly say I don't know a lot about this topic. I want to learn more. I'll take the recycling out and I think, oh my God, that was an accomplishment just to pull that together from the week. So I am so open to learning more, and I know you've got tons of tips for us. So tell me what you've learned so far in the Green Group.
Well, it's really interesting because I thought the same way. You're thinking about, you're taking the recycling out and you're separating your plastics, your containers, your sharps, and you think that's kind of it. And really, that's just like the very beginning of it. There's so much more that goes into it. We're really starting now in my house to, reuse, repurpose, and then eventually when it's like, you can't do anything anymore, recycle. And there's a lot going on in the world that's supporting this. And, we follow at Wiley the United Nations, the 17 goals that they have. They're called the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And, I try to focus on them the same way I, at home, thinking about what we focus on at work and what United Nations is trying to do. There's 15 goals in total. The top 5 are no poverty, zero hunger, good health, well-being, quality education and gender equality. And I hope that I can share with your listeners the PDF. And it's so great just to read about what progress they've made over, the years and what we still have to do. If you're looking to contribute, that's a great place to start.
Yeah. So perhaps if you're interested in receiving that from Nicole, you can DM her in LinkedIn or DM myself, and we'll make sure to get that to you. I appreciate that offer, Nicole, very much.
Yeah, of course.
Tell me about the Queen.
So it's really, it's sort of a journey when you're thinking about getting green and how you can apply it to different parts of your life. It was really daunting at first. I started thinking like, I'm going to solve all the world's problems. And it was like, I couldn't even figure out how to not use shampoo and in a single plastic use bottle. So I started to learn from people who had much more expertise than I did. And this amazing CEO, she's the founder of City by the Sea in the United Kingdom. And she said to me, well, she said in an interview, kind of not podcast, like a meeting that we did, she said she was the queen of small achievables. And I thought that was amazing. And I realized we can't solve all the problems right now, world hunger, the climate crisis, but we can make small changes to really make a difference. And I think that it's important, right? We want to stop plastic pollution. That's what her organization is dedicated to. That's one of like the hardest things to get away from in our world, right? That's what we do. We use so much plastic, but I think that's a good way to look at it. If you can take small bites out of it, how to eat an elephant kind of thing. It's really a great way to start getting involved.
I like that. Any stats you want to share with us?
Yeah. Well, when you start really like learning about it, it's kind of, it's mind blowing, right? We think about plastic and all the bottles like that we use every day, and even like women, right? Like our menstrual products. You don't realize it, but it's like there's so much plastic in use, in single-use plastics, that bottle caps, right? When you think of like water bottles, they're found in animals, and they're eating them. So they're in their digestive tract, and it's 80% of plastic, right, that is on land is going into the ocean. That's like 12 million tons. And right now it's estimated that there could be 199 million tons in the oceans right now, because we don't even really know for like the depths of the ocean, but that's a lot of plastic. And it's scary. It's in our, our sea life, and it's getting into our water. And it's just, it's a scary fact. So I think it's also a motivator to make us want to do better and drink from our Stanley cups and drink from our metal water bottles or refillable water bottles, and use bar shampoo if you're not into, completely getting rid of a shampoo bottle, using a recyclable one that you can fill up. And it's another fact that I thought this was really interesting when I first heard about it, only because I didn't realize people still smoke anymore. But people smoke cigarettes, and when you think about it, right, globally, that's but also here in the United States, there's 9.7 billion cigarette butts that are littered in the U.S. every year. Every year, 9.7 billion cigarette butts, and they're chemical, like they're not good for you. And they're saying they're estimating about 4 million of them are entering the waterways. So that's making up 20% of the litter, which is, I think it's just crazy, because that's a lot of cigarette butts, and something so small. It's really making a really terrible impact, on our environment.
Yeah. And I think just sharing that knowledge and the expansiveness of it really kind of brings the point home. Like, a lot of people don't know these details. I appreciate you sharing them. I know you had said a couple tips. But we'll get back to that. Tell me about some of the events though that maybe that are coming up that you've been working on that you're able to share with us
Yeah, we
at
had
work?
a World
Yeah.
Ocean Day event yesterday, which was really nice. And the Global Green Group got together. We have one of the she's a regional chapter leader in the Green Group, and she is also a marine biologist, which is amazing. And so she joined us and shared all of what she learned in her research when getting her
Mm-hmm.
master's, and how, different techniques are used to make the water safer, better, how they're, taking care of it in the bigger picture. We also had the Long Island Aquarium join us. They came on virtually, which was really cool, and they did a tour of how they have these, rehabilitation of animals, how they're taking care of animals, and we got to see them. The fish we were talking before, right, about the Nemo and clownfish,
Oh,
the dory
yeah.
fish, and they have a whole setup and how like the ecosystem works and anemones, and it was just so really nice to see. And then we saw the penguins, like sea otters, and they were giving us the breakdown of what each animal is
Yeah.
eating, what they're fed, how they're trained, how they're,
Wow.
brought back to feeling better if they come in not feeling good. So it was a really great event. And, World Ocean Day is one day, but we can celebrate, the oceans all throughout the month of June. Let's see. In July is free plastics, and that's a really big one, right? Because you know how important it is to start. We have to think about the plastic usage in the world, and you can be part of the solution. There's great examples and links that I can share with you, and we try to do. Besides our monthly goals, we set our monthly calls. We set goals for ourselves, what we can do to limit the use of plastics. Even if it's for the month, you find that you start to incorporate it into your lifestyle throughout the year. I stopped
Yeah.
using regular shampoo and I use bar shampoo now. I never thought that I would be like, because I had a favorite brand and I just thought that was the one.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll try it for plastic free July, and it just stuck. And I was like, well, my kids have to use that and they like it and it's cool, it's easy travel. So really great ways to get out there and get involved. And even if it's just reading about it and trying to learn more, that's still a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And we're hoping to do that with your PDF and the links.
Yeah.
Um, And the websites that I went to that you share with me, they're all bright and sunny and really easy to click on. It's not like this very, at least the two that I looked at, it's not this real serious tone and jargon. All right, you gave us some ideas for June, July. Something's happening in September. What's going on there? Or what have you done in the past in September?
Yeah, September's a good one. We have a National Cleanup Day, National Cleanup Month in September. And
Okay.
for us around the green groups in Wiley and the global Wiley Green Group, we usually organize, teams that are near us, hybrid, some people have moved during the pandemic and, or some
Mm,
of our colleagues are on the other side of the globe, but we all find a way to get together and go and clean up something, whatever it is. A lot of places, like our community is great. They list different ways that you can get involved in cleanup. I've been
mhm,
going to one for a few years, and we get the family involved and we go and we just make
mhm.
sure that we're cleaning up these waterways because we want to try to keep it clean as it flows through to the ocean. But there's so many ways that you can do that. There's garbage in parks, there's pickers, and Wiley has been amazing at supporting this. They will make sure we have all of the things that we need. Family comes, you have your gloves, your pickers, and you make a difference that day. When you see, 20 bags of garbage, even if it's 5 bags of garbage, that you've collected, it's something
Mhm.
that's not getting into the water. It's not getting into, what we're
Yeah.
drinking. And I think that's really a powerful thing. And most people can do that if they have local, volunteer options.
Mhm.
They can check that out, like in their recreational boards. Usually they post stuff about it there in their communities.
Yep.
But another link I'll share is for the national cleanup. website, and you could put your zip code in and find out if there's something going on near you.
Amazing. Amazing. How about some more of the ideas that I could do right now? You mentioned the one that was the bar soaps, which I've heard about that a little, like somewhere along the line, somebody had maybe it was a face wash, but it seems like such a simple idea. So give us more. What else can we do like right now?
Well, for sure. We talked about the bar shampoo, bar conditioners.
Yeah.
Those are a great way. Using refillable water bottles, which everyone knows that we're getting so much better at that. You see places to fill your water, in parks now. They're in the airport.
Mhm.
It's great. We're trying to make it more accessible so more people do that. Refillable containers, right? Those are fantastic if you're not going to do the bar shampoo. And I get it. But I use a brand, it's called Kitsch. But if you're taking stuff on vacation and you don't want to carry all of these bottles, especially if you're thinking about the ounces that you can travel with, you can get these travel size ones. They're usually like, I think, a silicone, that soft material, because you can refill them. Then you can take them home and wash them out when you're done, so you can use
Yep.
them again. But I put everything in there. My kids' Aquaphor, their suntan lotion, anything, aloe, whatever it is that I can squeeze out of a bag and put it into a bottle, it's better. Um, Powering down electronics when they're not being used, really a great way to conserve energy. When you're on the plane, putting it on airplane mode, right? Or do not disturb. Obviously, they tell us that when we take off to not interfere with the communications to the cockpit. But it's also great if you're just, not using the technology. Powering down completely, obviously, is the best. But I think about, we have little kids and I'm downloading movies for them to watch. So if I could sort of, give one and take away from mine, I try to do that. And traveling greener, that's another really great one that people could get
Okay.
involved in sort of right away, right? We don't want anyone to stop traveling. The aviation emissions are low in terms of what they're putting out when we think of planes flying but there are ways to travel greener. And it's not just abroad, right? It's domestic travel too. If you have a travel agent that you work with, you most likely can tell them, hey, I'm looking for some green options. And they have all of that. They'll help you with these sort of best practices in green travel. And then there's other ways thinking about economy, how you're traveling. It's all sort of they're actually starting to lay it out more on the different travel websites. So if you see those options, you can go down that path. But I think it's, even going to a hotel when you're visiting, we all like to have that moment of being pampered. But if you don't wash your towels every day while you're staying there, and you hang them up and let them dry, less bedding being changed, it's less of the, machines running, that, constant cycle of, water churning and microplastics, getting into the water. It's a great way to make a small change.
Yeah. Love that. There are some really excellent, I guess, physical changes you could make, literal physical changes. How about, can you share some digital type footprint tips for us? It's
Yeah.
hard to say.
A lot of obviously the bigger names we know, they focus on green, right? They all have goals. I'm sure you watch commercials and it's like, promise to go green or whatever by 20 something. And
Right.
they're, it's not just physical, like you said, there are digital ways. So our carbon footprint, we think about old electronic emails and storage that the servers have to support. Every day, the digital trash we create as individuals sits somewhere in a cloud, that cloud. And this cloud uses a considerable amount of electricity. So along with the web, all the systems that we need to host all of these things, we are producing about 900 million tons of CO2 emissions. And that's 4% of the global greenhouse
Oh my
emissions.
goodness.
So it's kind of almost equal to the aviation
Wow.
industry, which is crazy because it's just an email. It's these servers and data center. It's all, and it's equal to about the aviation industry emissions. And really, it's expected to increase, right, with all technology to more than 20% over the next 6 years. And that's a big impact. So we could do really great things just to make that less. And it's like
Yeah.
digital cleanups. Those are a great way. They happen the third Saturday in March, and doesn't mean you have to wait till that day. You can be conscious and do it throughout the year. We are all notorious, I think, for that reply all thank you email. We can start thinking
Oops.
about not doing that, right? And old presentations or settings in your computer where you can say, if I haven't touched this file for a long time, trash it. Something probably from maybe 6 years ago. I know we like to think we're going to search it and find it, but that file that's sitting there is really making an impact on the world. So I tell people just to think consciously about what you're saving and what you can delete.
Yeah. Nicole, that digital emissions thing that you just shared, that was a real aha to me. Like, you don't even want to look at my personal emails. At work, I'm totally compliant, but at home, I've got an AOL account that I've tried to shut down. I still have my I don't even want to tell you what else is going on, but that is such an aha. I had no idea that was contributing. You mentioned something, and it made me think about the contact center. Can you give us some more ideas to share with, your contact center, or maybe just like an internal team that you might be on?
Yeah, I started thinking about how to do this. I know we're all familiar with Customer Service Week in October,
Yeah.
and a great way to incorporate something green there, especially if you have teams that are remote or celebrating virtually globally, is to give them an electronic gift versus, a lot of times people are sending gift cards or they're buying bulk gift cards and they're shipping them out, or they're ordering lunch in so many different locations. And we encourage potlucks even, and saying, cook something at home, share that recipe. We'll create a sort of cookbook, right, out of it, and we'll be able to share that. But trying to do those things that are serving multiple locations without having to, impact the world so much. I think that there's always going to be the times that we have to do that. But I know people love electronic gift cards now. I mean, my kid is 5 and he's into it. I'm like, because that's what they get for their birthdays. And like, it's better than going to CVS and buying a gift card. They're getting it. It's like a link right on, your phone, and you can get them something, you can get yourself something. And I think it works nice globally, right? When you have to transition dollars or pounds, whatever it is, it works wonderful that way. We like the idea of repurpose, reuse, recycle, maybe even doing upcycling events if you're actually in the contact center. Some people have a hybrid world right now. Some people are in office, some people do both, some people just are remote. But there's still ways to contribute. If you know your team is doing something and they're recycling or upcycling or whatever, crocheting, maybe going to the food shelter, trying to think of those things and doing them together, even if you're in your own area. I think that's special. We also do incentives for like digital cleanups by measuring the before and after space used. And that becomes then a regular practice. And I think that's just a nice way to get something that is a need done, but also making it fun and exciting, right? Because I'm sure you go back and you could be like, what's the oldest date email you found? And then you add a fun element of it to the, customer service week kind of thing.
Right.
I think you can also share more that way. We were used to, and that's an amazing thing to do in office, these types of, competitions or potluck parties. And I think that everyone should still continue to do that because it brings people together. It's community and culture. But I think when you're trying to think outside the box to do it virtually, those are great ways to do it. You can do award ceremonies virtually and create a fun presentation.
Mm-hmm. Great ideas. Great ideas. You have given us ideas now. Well, I added March because is March Earth Month? I think it's Earth Month.
April.
So we'll just April is. Oh gosh. So you've given us ideas for April, June, July, September, October with Customer Service Week. So that's like, 5 months. I don't even know what I just said exactly, but that's such a great start, and I appreciate that. I know you're very passionate about this topic, and I'm wondering how else could people help? Perhaps not necessarily in the form of donation, something outside of that. Any ideas there?
Yeah, I think a lot of times organizations have giving platforms, and you can look into that, I'm sure. But I think the most impact we get is from volunteering locally, getting involved on a global scale if you have that capacity, what you're doing in your life
Right.
right now. But also making changes, big thing. The resources that I have to share with you today, all of this is outlined, and I encourage anyone who's in New Jersey and wants to get involved, and if you're interested in learning more, to just ping me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to do a cleanup with you, or you can join my cleanups, and we could just connect. And there's so much that you can learn in this space. We are all on a mission. And for the larger brands out there, I challenge everyone to think about this. We all have our goals that we set and our organization sets. And I think we have to make sure we're mirroring that in what we're doing every day, but also think about our vendor partners. I know a lot of times we have valued partners in the contact center space, in the technology space, and making sure that their sustainability goals are aligned with your organization's goals, so that way you can work in tandem to achieve them, is really going to make it's going to double the effect that we have on making this impact. So I think those are a few things that people might not realize, and it's a great way to get started.
Perfect. Sadly, we're wrapping up. But thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me, Nicole. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you had me, and this was wonderful. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it, and also just to chat with you.
Absolutely. If you've learned even a kernel of an idea or was inspired by this episode, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast on Apple Podcast. Be sure to share out the hashtag CPGCX, because CPGCX really and truly rocks.
You have been listening to the My Curious Colleague podcast with Denise. Thank you for your time.